der nächste Bock aus Deutschland von Adamabur mit dem 4. Startplatz heute hier. Theo Hempel. Und sein Anschieber Erik Bucker, Björn und Florian Bauer. Als letztes dann die Letten Jekab Skaleta, Lauris Kornanis, Mathis Mikinis und Maili Stara. Es folgt der nächste Woche als 12. mit Michael Christian Tentea als Pilot, als Taylor Austin, Johan Esprit, Peggy Parkinson, Mark Zanet und Chris Esley von Kanada. Als letzte dann starten heute den ersten Raum. Hier.
Water, okay?
Nun sehen wir wieder den Allianz Safety Sled als Spurschliffen. Jetzt weiter mit einem Werbespot. Der zweite Spurbock ist im Ziel. The second pilot sled has finished. The Allianz Safety Sled has finished. Und noch ein Spurbock werden wir jetzt sehen. Another one. Pilot sled.
visit to Winterberg in Germany on a snowy Sunday morning, the first weekend of 2025, and it's been action all the way from the men and women skeleton, the team competition, an exciting monobob race, and the two-man with a brand new track record for winner Francesco Friedrich. We had a slightly topsy-turvy, snow-affected women's race this morning, and now it is the Königsklasse, the four-man bobsleigh. Take a look down this Winterberg track, opened in 1971, the second oldest in the business. Francesco Friedrich has the start record and the track record. And out of the zero curve, looking here at the data from our Allianz safety sled, monitoring all sorts of different factors on the way down the track. Out of corner 3, uphill to 4, and then corkscrewing down turn 5. See the G-force there, that's the top red sector, that's corner 9, then 11, the high G corners. This is the Kreisel, not as high G as corner 9 where we get to now. And this important little transition, 9, 10 into 11, sets you up for the bottom part of the track, and we're getting towards there now, the labyrinth. Out of 11, 12, and then 13 into corner 14 here, the final corner across the line. Francesco Friedrich with the start and finish record. Start record set in January 2021, and the downtime in March 2024. That was in the World Championships. So we'll be looking for potentially this afternoon, maybe a track record, although it seems it might be a little humid. But then didn't necessarily look like track record distance to everybody yesterday, but it did to Francesco Friedrich. 22 sleds in our field today, and Francesco Friedrich, the world champion on this track. There he is. He's the man that they will all have to try and beat. Hansi Lochner finished in the silver medal position in the World Championships here in February. He's a winner on this track as well. 3 gold medals for Johannes Lochner, but Francesco Friedrich with 9 wins here, including the 2015 and, I beg your pardon, including the 2024 Worlds, 2015 Worlds here, won by Max Arndt. Now on the left, in the black jacket, is Markus Treichler of Austria, having an excellent start to the season. Patrick Baumgartner as well here with his crew rehearsing their start. Let's hope Baumgartner doesn't slip. They've had a good start to the season as well. Well, the first sled out of the start shed will be Jakob Mandelbauer of Austria, from Mate Behonek and Frank Del Duca. Then into the top 10 seeds with Adam Amor, Francesco Friedrich, Markus Treichler, Brad Hall, Cedric Follador. Johannes Lochner goes off 10th. And hopefully in these clear-ish conditions, shouldn't be too much of a problem going either early or indeed late. And we have some World Cup debutants in our field. 1 new driver and a few new brakemen. Jakob Mandelbauer gets race 2 of the four-man bobsleigh World Cup underway. 4th World Cup start for him. Dominik Hanschitz, Adam Wiener and new boy Daniel Berchler on the back of the sled. Berchler with only 2 bobsleigh races to his name before today. 5:23 is their start, 4:96 is the record. May not get there, but Francesco Friedrich and his team will be looking for it for sure. Out of corner 1 and corner 2, from 3 up to 4, and then dropping into the left-hander at corner 5, down 3 stories, really accelerates the sled for the first time properly. Through the Kreisel. It's a lot of sled to get down the track, and these four-man sleds, like the two-man, going a lot quicker than they were when this track was designed. 127 kilometers an hour, up to 138, 39, 138.6. Mandelbauer out of 14 across the line, 54.31, 1.2 seconds off the record. Well, that's sort of where we ended up at the end of the women's race. A snowy day, damp conditions, a little bit of a frosty track. Mandelbauer not going to necessarily challenge the leaders either in terms of speed. Still very much in the early stages of his driving career, only his 4th World Cup. Made his debut in Innsbruck in December 23 on home ice, and his other 2 races have been in Altenburg. World Cup best of 11th, finished 17th in the World Championships here, which is probably around where we expect to see him. Getting very sideways down there, the 11-12 crossover. Next up for the Czech Republic, Matej Běhounek, another younger driver, only his 7th World Cup. Michal Dobeš in his 13th, Ondřej Rapp and Ladislav Vila at 3 and 4. They're in only their 3rd 4-man World Cup. Ondřej Rapp returning, did 2 bobsleigh races in December 2023, hasn't raced since. 5:28, so slightly slower, just 500ths behind the Austrians. A lot more mass to the 4-man sled, twice as much human weight in it, not least. But that does make it a little less responsive, a little less twitchy. It's a much bigger beast to drive. Onto the Kreisel, 2nd best speed, but with a slender advantage over Mandelbauer. Green numbers for Běhounek means he's in the lead, 600ths up. Ooh, a little high in 11. 12-13 crossover, quite wild. Across the line, won't be by much, stays 400ths in front. Dominik Dvorak on the right-hand side, former driver, now coaching the young guys in the team.
54.27.
Dvorak really forced out by injury, unfortunately, earlier than he wanted to quit. But he's remained very much part of the programme. And his legacy will be his own results, but also what he can help the team from Czechia to do. Trying to bring on younger drivers in the men and in the women's game. Again, you can see how hard it is to get these big sleds through these small transitions. Third of our starters, Frank Del Duca from the USA, with the American build to MUSA sled. 26 World Cup start for him. His 14th as a driver after 12 as a brakeman. Carsten Vissering behind him, Charles Volker and newcomer Dylan Gilbert, the 4th member of the crew. In and down, neatly done. And much less of a drama with all the weight keeping the sled stable over the zero kink. The reason there is a little bend before turn 1, for those that don't know, the big start facility they have here is newer than the rest of the track, and when it was built they had to join it up to the track. That little zero kink is what happened before turn 1. Into the Kreisel, turn 7, 3rd best speed. Nice looking exit, down into 9. Little tap in 10, sends him sideways a little into 11. Out of 12 into 13. Not too bad. Tied for the lead. That 1700s has gone away, and a 10th back. So Frank Del Duca, the 3rd of the 3 sleds. Brakes, brakes, brakes.
54.37.
Taffy Latour having to go up the hill to stabilise the sled. There you can see there's a lot of movement inside the sled. That's really not good. Looks like whoever was at 2 trying to get his legs around the driver's seat and maybe not being able to do so. He's tucked in there by the time they get down to turn 11, but all that wriggling around can't be good. There's Frank. Come the safe way down the steps. Next up, Adam Amor, bronze medalist in the World Championships here in February. Debutant Theo Hempel at 2, the big bearded man. Benedikt Hertel behind him at 3, Rupert Schenk at 4, both in their 8th 4-man World Cup race. Hempel has 3 Europe Cup races, a Junior Worlds and 2 2-man races under his belt. So a total of 6 bobsleigh races before now. Adam Amor in only his 8th four-man race as a driver. Came away with a two-man bronze yesterday. Bronze medalist in the World Championships in February. Starting 5:17. It's a little slower than Frank Del Duca, but Del Duca lost ground on the way down. And Adam Amor, 1600s up at the moment on Matej Bochenek. Gradually growing that advantage. Second best speed. See the way the crew lines up there, fitting nicely. This is all part of the art of four-man, is fitting the crew around each other and into these tiny sleds. Sometimes you'll find that the seating order gets moved around just for comfort. 53.99. Okay, so the first sub-54 run. 8800ths off the all-time record. Well, for the four-man, track was never faster than in the World Championships in February 24. But yesterday, faster still in the two-man, at least for one man. Amor loads, one of the smaller drivers, and then 4 drops in. Between his legs drops 3, between his legs drops 2. So you sit there with your legs around the man in front. Otherwise, there's just no room to get in. The alternative is to have your knees under your chin, your feet by your backside, sitting cannonball as it's known. Nobody does that anymore because it hurts. Francesco Friedrich, 90th World Cup start. Yesterday was his 50th two-man win. This is his 193rd World Cup race. Simon Wolf behind him, making his four-man debut. Matthias Sommer and Felix Straub, regular members of this four-man lineup now. 5:05, 4:96 is the start. They're only 900ths away. They chase every record, every run. And with Simon Wolf behind him, who's been a massive addition to the team in terms of two-man pace. Wolf didn't go in the two-man yesterday. That was Alex Schuller. So Wolf having his first ever four-man World Cup start here today. Tucked in right behind his driver. Third best speed for Friedrich. The gap's coming down from 21 to 1600ths. These big heavy sleds, the track is not continuing to give the speed the way it was, but Friedrich is pretty loose as well. 400ths over Adam Amor, 53.95. 9 wins on this track for Francesco Friedrich, including the World Championships last year. 14 medals in total. 56 four-man medals so far. 81 in the two-man. Yesterday was his 50th two-man World Cup win. And these are World Cup medals alone, not Olympics, not World Championships, not Europe Cup, not European Championships when they've been standalone events, just World Cup medals. That was a pretty loose run in terms of how Francesco Friedrich normally gets down this track. He will come back swinging in the second heat, no question about that. Slender lead over Adam Amor after the first 5 sleds. Next up in Winterberg, Markus Treichel of Austria. 52nd World Cup race for him. Silver medal in the season opener in Altenburg. Sascha Stepan behind him. Sebastian Mitra, Christian Huber, very experienced. Total World Cup starts for this quad, particularly for these 3 brakemen, probably exceeding any other sled. 25 starts now in four-man for Sascha, 29 for Sebastian Mitra, and 34 for Christian Huber. They're still starting really strongly, and that's part of the rejuvenation of the fortunes of Markus Treichel. 1300s, back to 1700s behind. Showing a second to third on the splits. That sounds about right, ahead of the likes of Behennek and Mandelbauer. He really should be. He'll be aiming for another medal here. Not a bad exit out of 13, only the 5th best speed though. And across the line, quarter of a second back in 3rd place. Last Austrian medal on this track, looking at Wolfgang Stampf, you think, oh, when was that then? Well, actually not that recent, not that far away. Benny Meyer, December 2022, with Sascha Stepan, Christian Huber, and Opper, Marcus Sommer. Benny Meyer, also a bronze medalist the year before, 2021. And before that, Benny Meyer, a bronze medalist in 2016-17. Marcus Sommer on the sled that day as well. Great Britain's Brad Hall making his 52nd four-man World Cup start. Encouragement from Sean Olsen at the back. Taylor Lawrence, Aaron Gulliver, Greg Cackett. Big T, 31st World Cup in four-man. Greg Cackett, 43rd in the four-man. Aaron Gulliver, the new boy, his 10th World Cup start, made his debut in Whistler, November 2022. 5:09, great getaway. Second fastest so far. 5th place in Altenburg, the season opener. Silver medalist on 2 occasions, on 3 occasions here in the last 3 World Cup outings. Brad Hall's been silver behind Francesco Friedrich, but ahead of all the other German sleds. 200s in it, long skid there, into the Kreisel, best speed. 100th in front. Speed not quite where we saw from Adam Moore, and Jakob Mandelbauer's been very quick as well, but 700s up. Brad Hall is going to lead Francesco Friedrich in Winterberg. Well, the boys look happy. And there was things to tidy up. Now, not to say there weren't in Francesco Friedrich's runs. Plus, when he's backed into a corner, he comes out fighting. But look at the reaction from the boys. Greg Cackett in the back, absolutely fired up. Aaron Gulliver there at the back with him. Taylor Lawrence at the front. A good start, a really good start. 5:09. 5:05 for Friedrich's crew, so starting 400s back, he's outdriven Francesco Friedrich on German ice. And you'd have to say that Brad's customer sled may not quite be a match for the FES sleds as well.
Let's go, man.
I was in the top 6, but not in the medals in the 2-man. Great run from Brad Hall to lead early on in the 4-man race. Now, what about Patrick Baumgartner of Italy? 39th World Cup 4-man for him. He's got Eric Fantazzini, Robert Masea, and Lorenzo Bellotti behind him. Lorenzo Bellotti in his 69th career 4-man race. In they get, nice load, 5:19. It was smooth as well. So they carry that velocity. 1500s back, 5th place. Marcus Treichel is 4th. This will put them ahead of Matej Behennek of the Czech Republic. Now, the early starters in the women's race this morning really suffered because the ice got quicker and quicker. And there was less and less snow as the first run went on. But here, well, the good drivers are finding the speed in the track. But it was there initially for the early starters. Baumgartner 4th at the line. That's a good run as well, isn't it? 10th place here, January 2021, his best result in Winterberg. silver medalist in four-man in Beijing at the beginning of last season. Of course, Bobsleigh didn't go to the Asian races this year. It was skeleton only in Pyeongchang and Beijing. Costs of shipping are unbelievably high these days. Neat drop in. When the whole crew gets in like that, it stops the rocking and rolling of the sled. And as you'll probably understand, pushing things sideways slows them down when they're supposed to be being pushed forwards. Ninth sled of our 22-strong four-man field here in Winterberg is Switzerland's Cedric Follador, Nicola Mariani, Luca Rolli, who was in the two-man yesterday, and Quentin Jahr. 7th World Cup start for Quentin, 12th for Nicola, and a 19th for Luca Rolli. Jahr's been in and out of the Swiss team, the brakeman. Debut in La Plagne in January 2020 and has done basically 2 races a season each season. They start 5.20, 7th fastest start. 7th place in Altenburg, 10th for Cedric Follador and his crew in the World Championships here in February 24. Looking smooth so far. The Swiss, like the Germans, like the USA, with their own sled building program. Ooh, little high coming on there. Gets it out sideways from 9. Clean out of 11. 12-13's pretty clean as well. Not quite as much speed as you might like. 8th at the line ahead of Frank Del Duca, but behind Jakob Mandelbauer. World Cup best of 5th in Lake Placid for Cedric Follador. Crew, you can see how tight everything fits into the sled. If you ever get the chance to go in a taxi bob ride down, of course, it'll be in a four-man sled like this. A number of the taxi bobs actually only have 3 seats, 1 for the driver and 2 passengers fitted in behind, to give space for normal people in winter clothing rather than ripped athletes in lycra. But it gives you a great indication, when it's taken you 2 minutes to get into the sled, how hard it is for these guys. Johannes Lochner up next, 10th of our starters, 61st four-man World Cup start for him. Debut was in Sochi in February 2013. He's had 11 World Cups here. He won the first 2. He's had 3 wins, 2 silvers and 2 bronzes. And the worst he's done here, a pair of 5th place finishes. He should be in amongst the medals. He was in the World Championships where he took the silver. His last outing here, he took a bronze. We've seen that Francesco Friedrich can be caught. 5:15 start is a 10th slower than Friedrich. He needs to undo that deficit in a hurry. And he stopped the bleeding almost by the Kreisel, but only the 8th best speed. What's left in the track now? It was a good Kreisel, still only the 8th best speed, and the gap is growing. He's gone from 3rd into the Kreisel to 5th on the splits, coming back in the lower reaches. Top 4 at the line, 5th at the line. 36 hundredths back, that's a long way adrift. Well, when you see the likes of Johannes Lochner, 1/3 of a second back and more, you wonder what condition the track is in. See, there's a little bit of moisture in the air. So either it's frosting up because the refrigeration's on hard to keep the ice surface, or the refrigeration isn't coping with the warmer conditions and the ice is becoming a little less hard. And the harder, almost the more brittle it is, the faster the sled runs. Has to be like marble to get maximum speed. So 10 sleds in, Brad Hall leads from Francesco Friedrich and Adam Amor. Johannes Lochner in 5th, ahead of Marcus Treichel. Jakob's calendar crashed in the World Championships, the last race in a four-man on this track, so the Latvian will be hoping to put that behind him. Lauris Kaufmanns, Mats Miknes and Maris Klaver at the back. Miknes in his 58th four-man World Cup race. Lauris Kaufmanns in his 26th. 15th World Cup race as a driver for Jakob's calendar. And his previous World Cup race here, a 12th place finish. That's 7th on the splits at the moment from the 6th best start. 3rd best speed though. So quicker than we saw from Johannes Lochner, but only 8th on the way out. Now, the margins are tiny. Ooh, and a skid there isn't going to help, particularly if the ice is a little softer or frostier. You can see actually that the high sheen we saw this morning has been replaced by a matte look to the track, and that's an indication that it's frosting up. 10th place, 54.35. Well, I would say that's probably about par here for Jakob's calendar. Season opener in Altenburg, he was 6th. 12th here in the last World Cup in 2022. That was a little late as well. And then the sled rocks back, skids through 10, bleeding off speed. We definitely have a frostier track. It's not going to get any quicker. Mihai Tente of Romania, Constantin Dinescu behind him, then Mihai Pacianu and Georg Jordash. Georg Jordash was in the two-man sled yesterday. Pacianu off a World Cup level skeleton career, converting to bobsleigh 2 or 3 seasons ago. His father is the bobsleigh coach. Mihai in his 23rd four-man World Cup start. The driver just 25 years of old, best of age, 12th here in January 21. Nice run through the zero curve as well. Smoothly into turn 1, down to the Omega curve 2. Tenth in Altenburg, 12th in the last World Cup on this track for Mihai Tentea, but they did not go in the World Championships in February last year in the four-man. So without that extra week of four-man action in last season on this track, 10th at the start, slipping out to 12th place. Again, not finding the speed. Yes, it's a customer sled. Yes, they may not have the greatest selection of runners, but 7th at the bottom in terms of top speed. Julian Pacianu calling the odds there. 54.47, 12th place. So Mihai Tentea behind Frank Del Duca by a 10th. The outliers at the moment, 7th and 8th, Matej Buhenek and Jakob Mandelbauer. Romania's Georgeta Popescu down there helping with the sled. The boys were helping, and the girls helping this afternoon. Not a bad looking run. You usually get a good drive out of Mihai Tentea. There he is. Pretty miserable weather. Crowd was absolutely rammed in yesterday, but not so good today. Timo Röner for Switzerland with Greg Jones, Tim Annan and Mathieu Herbstberger. Annan, son of Martin Annan. Sister Deborah races in the women's competition. In his 2nd World Cup race, made his debut in Altenburg, where Röner finished in 8th place. It's only Timo Röder's 9th four-man World Cup start since Winterberg, January 2020, when he made his debut. Looking smooth so far. Again, after a weekend of wild action from Skeleton and the more skitterish monobobs and two-man and women's bobsleighs, the four-man looks very planted. 10th best speed out of the Kreisel, into the Kreisel, 8th out of it. Woo, and kind of gets out of 11 okay, out of 9 okay rather. Oh, rocking and rolling through 13. Speed not quite as high as we've seen from the last couple of sleds. 12th place for him, a dead heat with Mihai Tentea. Two very different runs. I'm sure if you overlaid the video of one on the other, they would look totally different, and yet the end result was identical. Here's the zero curve, gets on very early. Look, the whole of the rear of the sled off the ice. That's a lot of start energy gone right there. That zero kink is so important. I mean, all these corners are important, and if you are sliding off them or falling off them like this, then all of the energy that's rocking the sled around is no longer sending you forward. But zero can absolutely crucify your run. Next up, Pat Norton, as Liechtenstein's Martin Krantz has withdrawn at the last minute, was in the two-man yesterday. Pat Norton with Mike Evelyn, debutante Keaton Bruegeling, the 26-year-old at 3, and Shaquille Murray-Lawrence on the back of the sled. Pat Norton only his 5th four-man World Cup. Made his debut in Lake Placid in February 2019. He's had 2 World Cup starts in Lake Placid and 2 in Innsbruck. Raced in the World Championships in 2019 in Whistler and 2023 in St. Moritz, but not here last season. So really first time racing here in Winterberg. Ooh, little squirrely through 9. .5:16 start, the 6th fastest getaway. And at the bottom of the track, 54.70. And that's an indicator of knowledge of the track. He doesn't have what a lot of his rivals do. So he's still trying to refine the line on the way down. Lyndon Rush, full of knowledge, but it's putting it into practice at 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 20, 30 plus kilometers an hour. That is the difficulty. And there you see coming on to 9, just giving a little bit too much of a steer. The back stepped out, the nose was forced down, then he's having to counter steer, but not go too high. And again here, out of 11 into 12. All of these slight steering differences are hundredths of a second of judgment, and a tiny amount of more or less steering makes such a big difference to the way that the sled looks on the ice. Next up, Sun Kai-chi of China. Ding Song, Ye Jae-long, and a new boy making his four-man World Cup debut on the back, An Tai, the 23-year-old, did the two-man race in Altenburg. That is his only ever other bobsleigh race. In and down. 5:20, that's a good start. Well, they've done a bit of rehearsal then. Under 23 Junior World Championship gold medal winner in February 2020 on this track, Sun Kai-chi. He's had a couple of Europe Cup weekends, as well as one World Cup where he finished 13th, and he was 9th in the World Championships. So he's got a decent handle on the track. 10th at the start, 10th at the moment, but the speed only 14th. Slipping out of the top 10. 12th behind, Frank Del Duca at the line, 54.42. That is 200s, 500s behind Frank Del Duca, and 500s ahead of the tie between Mihai Tentea and Timo Rona. So 4 sleds covered by 1/10 of a second, and 1,300 meters of ice to sort it out in the second heat. That's the sort of tight battle that we so often have here in Winterberg. The snow-affected women's race this morning meant that it didn't look like that after the first heat. Top 3 were covered by getting on for 0.8 of a second, and all closed up in the end. So Sun Kai-chi, done and down. Brad Hall leads after the first 15 sleds. And we get now to Lee Chun-jan. Young crew for him, 22-year-old Jiang Miaohan at 2, second World Cup. Shi Yaolong, who's 18, makes his World Cup debut. And Chen Heng, the 26-year-old, in only his 16th four-man World Cup, same as Lee. Shi Yaolong, by the way, the teenager, the guy at 3 races in his career. Those are all two-man World Cup starts with Lee this season. 5:17 to get away. That's another strong start. No wonder these young guys are in the sled. Now, 2 things going on here. First, of course, is battling everybody else. And secondly, the honour of being the better of the 2 Chinese crews. Might possibly be the other way round, in fairness. They share a common language with one other small group of athletes. And they will be the ones that they're focused on most. Squirreling from 9 to 10. And from 11, 12, 13. Pretty clean. Across the line. 10th place. He is the better of the 2 Chinese sleds. Tied with Jacobs Kalender. Now, there was nothing between them in Altenburg. The 2 Chinese crews were tied for 16th. Look at that. Ooh, out of 9. Hits the wall as he comes in a little to the left and then gets kicked out sideways. Back of the sled's going right as the track also goes right. Not ideal. And here, 11-12. Not a bad transition. Now a debutant, in fact several, from the Netherlands. Dave Wesseling making his first four-man World Cup start. New boy Joris Palzert too, a 24-year-old, has 6 four-man races. This is his World Cup debut. And then the brothers, Jelen and Janko Francic, 12 and 24 four-man World Cup start. They're both 2022 Winter Olympians. They competed in the World Championships here with Wesseling to finish 16th in the four-man in February 24. They get away in 5.19. Well, that's right where Lee Chun-jan of China has just started. So let's see what Dave Wesseling has got. We're in the Dutch Alps, not actually in the Netherlands, but there are so many Dutch holiday makers here out for skiing that it's got its nickname from that. It is the closest track to the Netherlands, so there will be lots more friends and family watching here than anywhere else probably. Oh, tap and a skid, out of 9. Fourteenth best speed at the bottom, and across the line, 17th place for Dave Wesseling. Ivo de Bruin on the left-hand side, former driver, now coach. And Janko Francic, the most experienced of the crew, made his debut breaking for Ivo de Bruin back in Park City in November 2017. Little tappy and skiddy up top, speed coming away. And then here out of 9, tap and a big slide through 10. 11 came in on the wrong side, little too much height in the middle of the turn as well. So Dave Wesselink down in 17th place. And in our initial field of 22, with Martin Krantz of Liechtenstein not starting, one sled won't make the field at the moment. Wesselink is in the danger zone. Kim Jin-soo of Korea, second World Cup foreman as a driver, 37 races as a brakeman, and 3 brand new athletes behind him. Chun Soo-yoon, Kim Sun-wook and Lee Kyun-woo, 25, 24 and 24, with a total of 10 four-man races between them. Kim Sun-wook also made his 2-man debut yesterday. 10th at the start of 5:18, but Kim Jin-soo not able to hold that pace at the moment, slipping out to 13th place, down to 16th position. Didn't start in Altenburg, and they've gone. Well, we had a crash in the women's race from rookie Lauren Jolo there. Her sled did not come back up. The Koreans have. They have finished the run with a 55.54. That puts them behind Dave Wesselink and less likely to make the cut to get a second run, whether they actually fancy going again or not. All the athletes understand sooner or later that a crash is occasionally part of the sport. Hence the crash helmets, not just for decoration or to keep your ears warm. So coming down below the Kreisel into 9, gets down low in 9, comes out a little high, and then gets sideways through 10. Out of 11 though, watch the run as he's climbing, 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 way above those broad white marks, tries to bring it down. And as he does, the sled articulates, rolls onto corner 12. Then upside down, rolling around through 13. Heads bouncing off the ice at 130 kilometers an hour. And through the final corner. Well, often you see a sled tip over there as the driver hangs on for speed, but this time it victory roll righted itself as they came across the line. Tough break for Kim Jin-soo and the team. And there will be a mandatory 5-minute track hold now to allow the track workers to just check that the track is okay, no major gouges. So Adam Baird and his crew for Great Britain will have a nervous wait. So it's all part of the safety business. Graham Richardson, the British coach for Great Britain, for the Netherlands. Long time as the head coach for Canada, of course. Returned to British Bobsleigh Skeleton Association over the last few seasons. Alex Cartagena, you can see there, with the RAF roundel on his helmet. Graham Richardson, also an RAF man. Alex Cartagena, the 27-year-old, he's making his World Cup debut in the four-man today. He's had two-man World Cups. There's Sean Olsen, Olympic bronze medalist in four-man in Nagano 98. With the green and yellow helmet. Adam Baird, Royal Marine Commando. Austin Millward making his debut as well in four-man, the 23-year-old at 2. 2 minutes, says Graham Richardson. Ollie Butterworth was in the two-man yesterday, and he will start at 3. Ollie, in fact, in his second season, his first season, 2019-2020, with Lamin Dean. Did all the four-man races and the World Championships. Boys just having to wait, staying in the warm, trying to focus. get ready to explode off the block when their turn comes. Christoph Langen there, watching his watch like everybody else. 1 minute, you heard the call. That's until the sled goes on the ice, so they're cleaning the grooves. Calling 1 minute again. And out come the boys, led by Adam Baird for Great Britain. Only his third four-man World Cup start, Bairdy. Didn't race in Altenburg. Debut was in Lillehammer in Norway in January of last year. Raced in Lake Placid in March as well. Competed here in the World Championships in February 24. Finished in 18th place. And although nobody relishes the delay, I think he will put it behind himself. So for Great Britain, Adam Baird, Austin Millward making his debut, Ollie Butterworth, who was in the two-man yesterday, and debutant Alex Cartagena. A young crew, 34-year-old driver. Millward is 23, Ollie Butterworth, the ex-rugby league star, 26, and Cartagena, 27. Best World Cup result of 14th. In the top 10 in the two-man already this season. Let's see what Adam Baird's got. 5:29 to getaway. First time together for this four-man crew. Two brand new brakemen in the sled. But the ice was running reasonably well. And he has to focus now on making the second heat. '19th at the start, 19th on the splits at the moment, 18th best speed though. Decent looking exit out of the Kreisel, nicely into 9. Little wavy in the exit of 9, but no contact, no skids, and that will help his speed. Trying to overhaul Kim of Korea, that should happen here, as the Koreans went upside down, 54.85. Well, nobody needs the delay, but Adam Baird keeping his concentration and getting them down all in one piece. First time out for the crew. Ollie Butterworth, the only one of the push athletes who's done a four-man World Cup race before this. He had 6, well, this is his 6th. Little runner correction you saw from Adam Baird there. That little left-right flick of the runners. Not sure how it straightens up the sled, but it seems to. Down here into 9. Good view of the crew. Through into 10 and 11. So, 1 and down. And our penultimate sled is Taylor Austin of the USA. 2 debutants for him as well. Johan Eskrik Parkinson, who was in the two-man yesterday, and Mark Zanet, the 24-year-old newcomer, with only 3 races under his belt. Chris Ashley at the back, 35 years old, his 4th four-man World Cup. It's only the 10th for their driver now. Taylor Austin was here in the World Championships and finished in 12th place. He has raced here in the World Cup before as well and finished in 9th place. But the 20th best start, 5:36, leaves him with work to do on a track that is not as quick as it was earlier on. 19th place on the splits, so ahead of Kim of Korea. And 18th ahead of Adam Baird of Great Britain as well. At the line, 16th place ahead of Pat Norton. So good control of the speed on the later part of the run. Off the slowest start in the field, 54.68. And now the boys, or at least the two in the middle, know what it feels like in race trim, in lycra, and not in training suits on this track. Not a whole lot different, I guess. Good driving by that man, Taylor Austin, to put himself into 17th place. And our final sled, the welcome return this weekend of Michi Vogt, Dominik Schlepfer, Dominik Hufschmidt and Andreas Haas, who was on the two-man with Mickey yesterday, returning to action after his training crash in Altenburg that so badly injured him, and especially Sandro Mikkel, his brakeman, who came out of the sled, was unconscious and hit by the sled as it came back down the track. Sandro, we gather, will be in St. Moritz next week, so wishing him again the best of recoveries. 5:21 the getaway for Michi Vogt. Showed in the two-man race yesterday that although he's still recovering physically, he has not lost his driving skills. 15th fastest start, 12th on the splits. And looking at these lines, not much has gone away from Michi Vogt. 13th on the splits, behind Sun of China, ahead of Sun of China now, chasing Frank Del Duca. Can he get close to the top 10? Not enough speed in the track at the moment. 7th fastest at the bottom, though, is promising. Across the line it is 10th, 54.35. Excellent stuff from Michi Vogt. Well, that start will come back. They won't be starting 15th fastest by the end of the season, that's for sure. As he gets fitter, he'll be putting more into the front handle. The boys will respond in kind. Little drift and a hard hit onto zero, bouncing the entire sled and crew up in the air. That's not something that you can do easily. That takes a lot of energy, and that's energy that's no longer in the sled, pushing it down the mountain. And that's why, when it looks dramatic, it's very bad news for your speed. Well, Michi Vogt, great run to be 10th after the first heat. Great run, too, from Brad Hall to lead after the first heat. Nothing is yet done. We've seen that the track changed during the course of the first run, and as we go 20-1 in the second heat, it will undoubtedly change again. Will it get faster? Will it get slower? And will Francesco Friedrich allow a British driver to win on this track in four-man for the first time in over 2 decades? Not without a fight, he won't. Brad Hall leads from Friedrich, Amor, Baumgartner, Lochner and Treichel. Hennig and Mandelbauer, the outliers. Great first opportunity for them ahead of Follador, Lee and Calendar and Vogt tied for 10th. Tied for 15th, Mihai Tentea and Timo Rona. And at the tail of the top 20, Taylor Austin, Pat Norton, Dave Esselink and Adam Baird. Kim Jin-soo with a crash, finished the run but didn't get through, and a withdrawal from Martin Krantz of Liechtenstein. We will be back at 2:30 local, 13:30 GMT, 08:30 Eastern for the final run of the weekend to decide a four-man winner, and that is in 35 minutes from now.
First one back. Woo, let's go, man.